Asus has launched the revised 2025 Asus ProArt P16. The obvious changes are the availability of the RTX 5090 and 120Hz refresh rate. But those are the press-worthy obvious changes. I've dug into the P16 to root out some of the other key adjustments, additions, and performance results. Why should you watch through this entire video? Well, in 2024, I posted more videos on the ProArt P16 than any other YouTube channel in the world. Over 100 videos dedicated to the P16. I know the P16 inside and out and have been catching the nuances of this device over the past year and now in this latest edition. So let's dive in. Asus has now released multiple 50 series variations of the P16, and we've tested the RTX 5090 version. Let's talk about the performance, thermals, and benefits of choosing the top SKU GPU in the Asus ProArt P16. Now, the CPU and the RAM are the same this year. We have the AMD Ryzen AI9 370HX, and we have LPDDR5X modules of RAM running at 7500 megahertz. Now, what's different this year is the storage and the GPU. Now, for starters, with the storage, you get two 2 terabyte drives equaling 4 terabytes in the RTX 5090 version. So it's fantastic that you have not only the upgrade path, so say you want to swap those drives for 4 terabyte drives, or perhaps you get a lower tier model that only comes with 1 drive, you have an additional upgradable SSD slot. Fantastic. Now the RAM is soldered to the motherboard, so keep that in mind for the upgrade path. For the RTX 5090, that has 24 gigs of VRAM with a total graphics power of 130 watts. Now that's different from the 2024 model, which maxed out at 105 watts of total graphics power. So they've lifted the ceiling on this device this year, especially with that RTX 5090. Now I've yet to test the 5070 to know the exact total graphics powers of those devices, but this model, the RTX 5090, has 130 watts of maximum graphics power, which is solid. Now, there's some other variations in the market that are running this laptop at 175 watts of maximum graphics power, but the laptop, because of the nice thin form factor, would not be able to run as cool, as quiet, as efficient as putting this device at a 130 watts maximum graphics power. Now, I will be comparing this device to, say, the HP Omen or the Alienware 16 Area 51. So if you want to see what it looks like when comparing thermals and performance between a traditional gaming laptop with an RTX 5090 versus a thin and light creator laptop, definitely check out those videos. If you're curious about the exact pricing and availability of the Asus ProArt P16, please head down in the description below and click those links. Now, if you do make a purchase, please consider using those links. It helps keep my channel alive and the helpful content coming your way. I'll get a small commission, but at no extra cost to you. And I'm always so grateful when y'all use those links to make a purchase. Now, a huge shout out to Asus for sending over the ProArt P16 and partnering with me to launch this video. Super grateful for them. They help keep the channel alive and the helpful content coming your way. But keep in mind, they had no say on what I was going to say in this video, and they're not allowed to change anything about this video unless I'm blatantly wrong about certain information. So what you are getting in this video is my raw, unadulterated feelings of the Asus ProArt P16. Now, speaking of the thermals, let's dive in. I used a 4K 9-minute clip, put into Premiere Pro, exported out at full quality settings to test the thermal limitations of this device as a creator would use it. And as you can see in performance mode, we saw 52 to 58 decibels of fan noise at 74 to 82 degrees Celsius on the CPU thermal temperatures. In standard mode, 51 to 53 decibels of fan noise at 71 to 76 degrees Celsius. On whisper mode, I was a little disappointed on whisper mode, not gonna lie, 49 to 51 decibels of fan noise with 76 to 79 degrees Celsius on the CPU. Now, the reason I say disappointed is because I'd rather the whisper mode drop the export time a little bit more, which I'll show you the export times in just a moment. When we unplugged the charger and switched it to standard mode, we saw 43 to 44 decibels of fan noise, much more of a ambient room noise level, and we saw 68 to 73 degrees Celsius on the thermal temperature. I promised the export times. Here's a shot of the various export times and the related thermal profile or thermal mode in the ProArt Creator Center. So you can see here that for the different fan modes, let's start at performance mode, 2 minutes and 19 seconds, and then standard mode, exact same export time, 2 minutes and 19 seconds. Whisper mode only lost about 15 seconds. Now let's go ahead and see how the P16 stacks up against other laptops for the 4K export. You can see we have a 2 minute and 19 second export time out of the P16. Remember, this is a thin and light chassis, and so we're seeing solid performance out of the thin and light chassis, and still great thermal regulation, in 2 minutes and 19 seconds is a great export time. It's not the fastest on the channel, it hits the mid-range on the channel, but again, we're hitting an all-around creator-focused laptop. We're not going for absolute top-tier performance and sacrificing the comfort, the thick chunkiness of the device. It's very well balanced. Now, going ahead and taking a look at the 6K export, this is one I was quite impressed with. 13 minutes and 42 seconds, right there in line with other devices that are top performance with RTX 5090s and RTX 5080s. But remember, some of those other devices are pushing 150, 175 watts of total graphics power. We're maintaining the P16 at 130 watts of total graphics power to keep that balance of thermals and fan noise and performance, and really having a nice combination of all of them in the device. Going ahead and looking at playback, 0 drop frames for 4K, 0 drop frames for 6K BRAW and 6K red footage. And you can see we only have 707 drop frames for 8K BRAW footage and 154 for 8K red footage. And so if you're looking to go crazy with either 8K BRAW or red footage, you have a system capable of handling that level of resolution. I know some of you may want to see these simulated benchmarks, and so I won't leave you hanging. Here is Geekbench, single core and multi-core, as well as Cinebench, single core and multi-core of this device. I'm not a huge fan of simulated benchmarks, but as a creator, I'm wanting to see how the device will handle inside of creator apps. And so that's what we're gonna dive back into now. We're gonna look at Photoshop as well as the 3D modeling benchmarks. And then we're gonna dive into some more of those features that I mentioned that are not so obvious, that are really, really nice changes and additions to the 2025 model. Photoshop is just shy of the top of the charts. We have a 9,244, absolutely fantastic score out of this device, where we get that 64 gigs of RAM and a little bit of help from that RTX 5090 and some of those more advanced, especially the AI functionalities being handled inside of the device. Going ahead and looking at Autodesk 3ds Max A316, Autodesk Maya 425, PTC Creo 370, and SolidWorks a 128. Now you can see, as I've been mentioning here throughout this video, you're going to have these thicker, chunkier, higher total graphics power laptops going to outperform the ProArt. That is expected. We are, again, dealing with a thin form factor, an on-the-go friendly device with a 4K pen-compatible display at 120 hertz refresh rate. This device is about juggling all of your unique needs as a creator, and as creators, we have a lot of unique preferences and needs, and that is where this device comes into play. And taking a look at DaVinci Resolve, 2 minutes and 19 seconds for that export time. In order to test out the on-the-go capabilities of the P16, I came out here to one of my favorite spots I love to skate at with the GoPro Max 2 to film and see how long battery life we could get editing the footage and putting everything together. Now, I also utilized StoryCube. They have a direct integration with GoPro in order to bring the footage in, and then the footage is automatically organized. So I can search for, say, motorcycle or surfboard, or even tag specific people that I can find later on. So it makes it easier for me to organize and find my footage again, even months or years later. So that's a really nice benefit of using StoryCube, is I don't have to dig into drives and click on individual files. If I load everything in there, it's easy to find and then easy to pull into Premiere Pro. Now let's get back to the on-the-go battery life. Now I ran this at very usable settings, 75% screen brightness on whisper mode, using Premiere Pro and the GoPro video player and StoryCube. I had the battery at 100% when I started, and I used the laptop all the way down to 0%, and it lasted 1 hour and 43 minutes. You can definitely go out for a shoot, but I wouldn't say you could do multiple shoots in a day. Make sure you're using the laptop for the most important elements of your shoot, and of course bring that charger block along with you to get recharged. Now, if I am benchmarking this laptop in my normal circumstances, I'm gonna set the screen brightness to 20%, and then we're gonna get roughly 7 hours of battery life out of this device for productivity, streaming video playback, about 4+ hours for Photoshop. And you can see for Premiere Pro playback, we have 2 hours and 5 minutes on whisper mode with the screen brightness at 20%. I had the screen brightness at 75% because I'm outdoors, and that was helpful to me. Keep in mind, if you're going to have an RTX 5090 in a device that's more of a gaming laptop, you're going to see about 5 hours of battery life. So we have 2 hours of battery life above the traditional gaming laptop that's going to be, say, 4 to 5 hours of battery life. So definitely, again, striking that balance, keeping you on the go as creators. We're not just sitting at a desk all the time. We're perhaps out at a photo shoot, or we're moving, we're on the go, we're on an airplane, whatever it might be. And that's where this device, that 130 watts of total graphics power, allows the balance of the machine to run more efficiently than something running at 175 watts. Okay, now let's get into one of the biggest changes of this device, and that is the 4K Asus Lumina Pro OLED display. Now, in the 2024 model, you had a 60 hertz panel with a peak brightness of 500 nits. Now, it was Pantone validated, and the 2025 model is Pantone validated as well. But in addition, we now have 240 plus pixel density. For those of you who are not super keen on how LED or OLED works, it's basically the arrangement of the pixels together, and the closer they are together, the sharper the image at a closer viewpoint. Okay, I'll give the example of a billboard. If you were to climb up the ladder and get onto a billboard and get really close, the image would be highly pixelated. The reason being is that you're viewing it from 100 yards, 200 yards away when you're flying down the highway. Another example, more specifically of LED displays, is going to be those massive displays in Times Square, New York. Those are LED displays, but they're massive, and the pixels are actually sometimes this far apart. So there's a pixel, and then there's like a pixel here, and they're very widespread because your viewing point is very far away. Now, as a creator, as we are working on our devices, our viewpoint is extremely close. And even more so when, say, we zoom in on a piece of art or a photo. And so having 240 plus pixel density means that you are getting the sharpest image possible out of a 4K OLED display. You could have a 4K OLED display, but the pixel density could be 100 or 120. That's pretty much the average pixel density of most 4K displays. This is 240. So that is one of those things that's like, okay, new panel, 120 hertz refresh rate. Pixel density is another very important part. And so they're matching pixel density with refresh rate and response time. That's something else I want to mention. It has a 0.2 millisecond response time, meaning that it is technically faster than other 120 hertz refresh rate panels that are, say, 3 milliseconds. It's 0.2. So if you're somebody who's thinking, okay, 120 seems nice, but I kind of want to consider 240, well, this is an upper tier 120, and so it might actually be a great fit for you without having to fork out the extra few $100s or compromise on the 4K display. You've got everything you need here. Now, on top of that, we had 500 nits of peak brightness on the 2024 model. We now have 1600 nits of peak brightness on the 2025 model. You might say, okay, great, that's the peak brightness, but tell me what you found from your test. So when I did not set it to that peak brightness, when it was just running kind of in a normal experience with battery power as a goal in mind, we saw 455 nits of screen brightness at 100% sRGB, 97% Adobe RGB, and 99% DCI-P3 at a delta E of 0.93. And for those of you who don't understand delta E is the accuracy at which the color gamut range can reproduce. Range is the amount of colors that can be reproduced. The delta E is the accuracy at which they're reproduced. The lower the number, the higher the accuracy. This is below 1, which is incredibly accurate. The next somewhat hidden feature in the 2025 model is a better anti-reflective coating on the display, and I'm going to show you exactly what that looks like. So you can see here, as I move my hand across the two screens, you can see the very clear difference between the 2024 model on the left and the 2025 on the right. You can see my hand far more clearly on the 2024 model compared to the 25. Now you can see I also took another camera angle, and you can see that that coating makes the screen appear darker, richer, more accurate. On the 2024 model, there's a section of the wall that it's reflecting behind the screen, and it looks kind of gray-green. The screen actually has kind of a gray-green look to it. And then you go ahead and you look over the 2025 model, and it has those deeper blacks and more accurate colors kind of reflecting off of the screen itself. not what it's producing, but even the reflection is more accurate with that anti-reflective coating, which again, all lends to that more accurate, high quality display that we have on the 2025 model. In 2024, there were a lot of people comparing the G16 to the ProArt P16, and we're gonna have that discussion here in just a moment, because I think some people still might be asking, well, what are some key differences? How do I know which one to purchase? And we'll get into that in just a second. But first, if you're somebody who didn't watch a lot of my 2024 videos, let me cover a few key elements of this device that you'll want to know about. First and foremost, you might want to know what the webcam looks like. Here's a sample of the webcam. This is a sample of the webcam on the Asus ProArt P16 from 2025, and a little sample of the audio for you as well. Next, we have these upward-facing speakers on the ProArt P16. They are great sound quality. Here is the audio on the P16. And looking down into the keyboard deck, we have a nice medium key travel, no numpad, and the glass trackpad that has a very firm manual click. Still a manual click trackpad. I personally really appreciate that, especially as my personal opinion on haptic trackpads on Windows laptops haven't quite nailed it. And so I prefer for a creator laptop to still be relying on, from a Windows standpoint, on that manual click trackpad. I think it's really good. Now the next thing to take a look at is the Asus ProArt dial. I have covered this extensively in other videos, and I will link that up in the YouTube cards above, and I'll even link full playlists where I've gone through and talked about over the years. I've literally had 3 years worth of ProArts in front of me, and I talked about the benefits and the pros and cons of each one. So I'm not going to belabor that in this video. Go ahead and watch those videos if you want to know my in-depth thoughts about the Asus dial. Now the next thing we're going to take a look at is the pen compatibility, and this has great pen compatibility. The next thing we're going to take a look at is the pen compatibility. You can do a nice thin stroke with light pressure and then apply deeper pressure, and it thickens out that stroke. You can do those quick strokes where it has a very feathered look. Between the pen and the ProArt display, we have a very great combination. I use the Asus Pen 2.0, which is compatible. The model that I received of the P16 did not come with a pen, so that may be something you want to consider purchasing in addition, or checking the listing. Perhaps the listing you're purchasing from does come with a pen, but just make sure you verify that before checking out, because if you want the pen, it may have to be purchased separately. One of the things I love about the Asus ProArt is the details. They have a very nice stippled edge around the entire display. It just looks so clean, so professional. I love the borderless bezel, so the bezel is integrated into the screen. They've really done an incredible job making this their de facto premium device, especially for creators. Now going ahead and taking a look at the ports, we have an SD card reader, USB Type-A, USB-C, no ports along the back panel, but we do have a beautiful Asus ProArt badging right there on the back panel. And then on the left side panel, we have our power adapter, HDMI, USB-C, USB-A, and headphone jack. Now let's talk about all that conversation we heard last year about the ProArt P16 versus the G16. So people were comparing it because it had a 2.5K display, still solid resolution, really strong display, 240 hertz, because a lot of people were complaining about the 60 hertz, 32 gigs of RAM, and the RTX 5090. However, the reason that this latest model is the one to go for as creators, 4K, 240 plus pixel density, with a 0.2 millisecond response time, 120 hertz, 64 gigs of RAM, which is exceptionally important for creators, not so much for gamers. For creators, we're multitasking. We're using apps with a lot of RAM usage. For instance, when I use Premiere Pro, I'm using anywhere from 17 to 20 plus gigs of RAM. And that's just Premiere Pro. I have, Spotify open, I have Google Chrome open, I'm possibly running Photoshop. So right there, you're killing 32 gigs of RAM. So 64 is fantastic. And at the price point, $3,999, so a little bit over $4,000 after tax, you're getting 4 terabytes of storage, as opposed to the G16 at 2 terabytes of storage, and the G16 prices out at about $4,399 before tax. So this device is truly an incredible bang for buck for creators and has everything you need, including an SD card reader instead of the micro SD card reader, which the G16 has that micro SD card reader. Now, I should have talked about this earlier, but we're here and now, so we'll just dive into it. Cooling the device. For the RTX 5090, we're using a full vapor chamber. And so that's going to handle the thermals for those more high-powered SKUs of this device. For the RTX 5070, we're using a tri-fan with heat pipes. So that's the difference in what you're getting from a cooling standpoint between the different SKUs available of the ProArt P16. One thing that we want to point out is, of course, the improved smudge resistance. 2025 model. 2024 model. Now let's go ahead and try and smudge that. Yep, okay, you can see there. See all the smudging? And almost no smudging. So here we go. Let's pull it up at an angle where you can see the smudging. There you go. See all of it right there? On this one, this is the 2024, and that's the 2025. Far less smudging. So they accomplished it. Far less smudging on the 2025, still a tiny bit, than the 2024 model. Are you convinced that Asus was able to fix everything you were concerned with on the 2025 model? Go ahead and comment below. I'm very curious your perspectives. I feel like they put a lot of work into listening to the audience, listening to creators, and then working with internal engineering to make this the best laptop possible, to make this their best creator laptop to date. Links will be in the description below if you want to make a purchase or check the live pricing. I'm guessing there's going to be some on sale here in the coming weeks or month, so you always want to make sure you check that live pricing. And if you do make a purchase, I'll get a small commission, but at no extra cost to you. Of course, that's what keeps this channel alive and the helpful content coming your way. Like I mentioned earlier, click or tap the screen here for tons of ProArt videos, especially for the dial to help you through buying decision. But when you do go to make a purchase, please use those links. It helps keep this channel alive and the helpful content coming your way. I'll see y'all in the next video.